Okay, I want to talk about the logic of sin today. Most people think, okay, there's a payoff when it comes to sin. And there is. In my younger days, I was a big sinner and I enjoyed my sin. And there was a certain amount of payoff. It's true. That's true. And I'm not talking about just little sins that we commit on a daily basis, little white lies of, we I don't know, gossip about somebody we shouldn't have, little things, the subconscious sins we do, and then we feel bad for it later. We say, well, I kind of screwed up. Now, I'm talking about real premeditated sin. Like, have you ever said to yourself or said to someone else, tonight I'm going to go out and get drunk, and then I'm going to get laid, and I'm going to have a hell of a good time tonight? Okay, that's premeditated sin. All right? Today, I'm going to go out and I'm going to step on somebody's head at the office or whatever so I can climb the corporate ladder, and I'm going to have to do somebody wrong to get something I deserve. Okay, that's sin. That's sin. All right? There's no way around it. These are sins. There's a whole ton of sin. I'm not going to list all the sin: lying, cheating, stealing, doing people wrong, all kinds of stuff. There's sexual immoralities. There's all kinds of things. And why do people? First of all, why do people sin? Because there's something in it for us, right? We get something out of it. There's pleasure in sin, and there's a lot of pleasure to be had in sin. And greed is a sin. But the more you have greed, you're going to get money, and then what are you going to do with that money? You're going to go sin with it. You're going to do something wrong with it. Okay? Not that money's evil, but the love of money is. All right? And this is the American way. We love to we bathe ourselves in sin, in excess. We're gonna get some money, and then we get the money, we got the women, and we get the women, we're gonna lay around and we're gonna have the sex, and then we're going to eat as much as we want. We're gonna have the cool cars and the big mansion, and lay around in a swimming pool all day with all of our friends so they can kiss our ass all day long, and we can feel this pride and ego going on, right? That's all sin. And that's what our system tells us that we're supposed to be, right? This is the American way, this is American dream, to have all the toys. But years ago, I heard a message from Billy Graham, and he said how people sell out their soul so cheaply. Everyone's looking for that American dream of sin. Very few people get it, but a whole bunch of people sell their soul out for it. How many actually achieve it? How many people actually become billionaires and live that life where they can lay around and enjoy all the comforts and the pleasures and the excess of sin? Not very many. But how many people sell their soul out for it? They sell out and they continue to sin, and they live a life of sin to have that, to try to achieve that. And of course, very small percentage actually achieve that. A very small percentage of the people actually achieve the American dream. Most people fail at that, but they're still sinners, and they're still going to hell because they have no intentions of repentance. They want that, and they strive for it until the day they die. And I remember this old message back in the 80s where Billy Graham was talking about how people sell their soul out for such a minuscule amount of reward. Some of these guys that have a life of sin, and they have billions of dollars and the best looking women in the world and everything you could imagine, that's their payoff. It's not worth it. It's stupid. But at least they got something out of it. They got a drop in the bucket, in the eyes of eternity. They got something. Most people want that, and they will sin all their life to get that and never achieve it. And that's the logic of sin. The logic of sin is actually no logic at all. If you look at a sinner, if you look at somebody that's really sold out to sin, after a while they don't play around and dabble with sin. After a while they get busy in sin. And then the strange thing is it takes them over. It takes their whole being over. It takes over their mind. It takes over their soul. And they become sin itself. I have seen this in my life where people have strived to get the things that our society encourages them to get and to achieve these dreams, but they can't. And what they wind up doing is living a life of nonsense. And this is why. This is why. Because there is no wisdom and there's no logic in sin. And so people wind up taking on the persona of Satan, of Lucifer. Lucifer became so adamant about having his way that he tried to take over heaven. God kicked him out. He became Satan, the destroyer. And if you look at Satan himself, there is no logic in him. He is self-imploding. And a person that takes on the image of sin in their life, they become like Satan. They become self-imploding. After a while, they're not going after the money. They're not going after the drugs. They're not going after alcohol. They're not going after the sex. They're not going after the prestige. They're not even prideful anymore. They are just sinful and evil because they have taken on the very persona of Satan himself. A persona that escapes all logic, that escapes all wisdom. This is the end of sin. This is the end working of sin. This is where people start getting demon possessed, is because they become so sinful and so wicked that they have lost their goals of what was at the end of the road. They've done all this wickedness. They've schemed, and they've done all the things that are wrong and evil to get to a certain point in their life, but then they forgot where that was, and it doesn't even matter anymore because they're lost in their sin so much that now they just become a wicked individual with no purpose, zero purpose. There's nothing that turns them on anymore. They don't want the drugs or alcohol. They don't want the good times. They just want to be evil. And they become self-destructive, self-imploding, and the end of it is complete destruction of that individual. And I see it. I know people like that right now as we speak. I know there's people like that. I know people like that. And I see it. And it's a very strange thing. I heard a psychologist years ago at a workshop it was a Christian psychologist telling his clients that if they read one chapter a day of the book of Proverbs, it would help their life greatly. And there's 31 chapters, I think, of Proverbs. I'm not sure, 30 or 31. So if you read a chapter of the book of Proverbs every day for a year, see what happens. He said his clients that didn't have their act together became extremely smart people just by reading one chapter a day out of the book of Proverbs. There are 222, maybe more, verses in the Bible about wisdom. Wisdom is something that comes from God. Do we understand that wisdom and knowledge and understanding come from God? They really do. In the book of Proverbs, I want to read here in verse 5. Get wisdom and understanding, forget it not, neither decline from the words of my mouth. Forsake her not, and she shall preserve thee. Love her, and she shall keep thee. Verse 7, wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding. Wisdom, understanding, being smart is from God. It has nothing to do with Satan. Satan isn't smart. He's an idiot. People that follow Satan's ways are idiots. I was once an idiot. I was a friggin' moron. I lived in sin. I did wrong, and I knew it was wrong. When people said, hey, Steve, you're doing wrong, I know I am doing wrong. I wasn't arrogant enough to say, I'm doing my thing. Yeah, I'm being creative in life, all that kind of crap. No, it was wrong. It was stupid, and I knew it was because I was still saved. I was horribly backslidden. And God got a hold of me, and he, I came to the crossroads in life, and he said, enough of this. And I said, you're right, and I'm going to go your way. And I've been doing his way now for many years. So there was a payoff for me for sin. I enjoyed. There was pleasure in sin, but it gets to be the point where the pleasure's not there anymore, and there's no wisdom or understanding in it anymore. And so, what we have to understand is that being smart and being wise comes from the Lord. So check into Proverbs and check into the rest of the Bible. And let's get smart and stay smart, and let's understand that sin makes us stupid. It makes us a moron. Satan is a moron. He's not very smart. And anyone that gets involved with him dies a pointless death and spends a pointless eternity in pain and suffering. And we that have Christ in our heart are smart, wise, and understanding. And God bless you all.